Damn, Jimmy, this some serious gourmet shit.
Yo, 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 what up, Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage Armor June Giraffe. Welcome to another episode of Some Gourmet Shit. Today we're going to be actually talking about Asura Kaiser. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I definitely want to do a premium format version of this deck, though, but I'm still trying to figure out, like, what cards premium wise will actually work with Novas and whatnot, and I want to think about like the overall like cost and think about like the overall what is it like strides to use and which of the older cards to use and everything else like that, and what works, what V series stuff works in Novas and what doesn't, and then also when it comes to the overdress stuff as well. What overdress stuff works with Novas? But anyway, today we're gonna be looking at Asura Kaiser because Asura Kaiser is my favorite unit from Nova Grapplers. I don't know too much about Nova Grapplers to give a decent deck profile, so instead of doing like a decent deck profile, what I'm going to do instead is talk about cards that I will put in my Asura Kaiser build, and you kind of figure out the ratios. I kind of know what the ratios are, but I'll give my suggestions as I go over each card. Now, I'm gonna just be real with you. I do like other Nova Grappler like support. Like I like Beast Deity, and I like what is it? And then I also like the Risers though, but I also like Asura Kaiser. Honestly, like the gimmick that Asura Kaiser does, and I also like Asura Kaiser's design as well. So I was pretty happy to figure out that they were making the Stride War Deity Asura Kaiser into a grade 3 in this upcoming clan collection set. So I decided, I was like, yo, let me try like to dip my feet into something that I'm not really used to. So basically all of this is just going to be going over educated guesses and everything else like that. So if I mention a card that nobody really plays, I apologize in advance. But before we get to that, let's look at both Asura Kaiser and War Deity and look at what we're basically going to be building this deck around. So, Asura Kaiser says on Vanguard Circle, when you draw a check reveals a grade 2 or greater card, stand one of your rear guards, and if the reveal card is grade 3 or greater, counterblast 1, and that rear guard gets power 10k to the end of the turn, which is actually pretty cool in my personal opinion. It is a pretty simple card, and because of the heal guardians, it makes it a lot easier to hit grade 3s. So we're just going to keep that in mind as we're building this deck. And then next up, we also have War Deity Asura Kaiser. It has Act in Hand. If your Vanguard is Asura Kaiser, cost Counterblast 1 and ride this card as stand. In my personal opinion, it should just say Asura Kaiser in his name. Vanguard Circle, once per turn, if Asura Kaiser is in your soul, call Soul Blast 1. Look at 3 cards on the top of your deck, choose a card from among them, and put them on the top of your deck and discard the rest. Then the second one is at the end of the battle that you draw a check revealed a grade 2 or greater card. Choose one of your rear guards, stand it, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, counterblast 1 and stand all of your rear guards. Honestly, this is a pretty interesting ability. And honestly, I like this card a lot. I'm not even gonna lie on that. I like this card. It's not like the best. I know there was a lot of people saying that the card was pretty bad, but I do believe that like if the deck is built right, then it'll cause some issue. But like right now, everybody is kind of complaining about what is it, Narukami right now, so it's understandable that not everybody's really going to look at this, but honestly see this as like a sleeper deck if you like build it correctly. But with all that being said, let's get on to like the grade 1s, because honestly I'm gonna just keep it real with you. My grade 0 lineup is going to be 8 criticals, 4 heals, 4 draws. For the draw triggers being the draw PGs and the heal triggers being the heal guardians. And then obviously if this was premium format, the critical triggers will be a combination of the three. The Vanguard crits, the Stride crits, or the one that came from Overdress that goes into the soul. It will be one. It will be a combination of those three. But outside of that, man, let's continue on with the list. So my first choice for grade ones will be a stream battler Arashad. I think it's Arashad. But anyway, he's a grade 3 searcher, but his extra ability is if your unit was stand by card ability, this turn this unit gets power 5k. If I remember correctly, this is stackable. Because it doesn't say like it doesn't have like the once per turn thing, so I'm guessing if I remember correctly, this is stackable, which I'm not surprised because that's basically a common thing in Nova Grapplers is whenever something gets power is usually stackable. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is, but I'll definitely double check like later on. But definitely this card will be ran at 4. Most definitely. I forgot that's gonna like keep showing up. But anyway, let's see. Next card is going to be Sword Brand Gladiator. It's basically a card that I feel like will be like the best card to ride on as your first grade 1. Because it has the ability to draw a card if the attack hits. And it also has a rear guard ability. If you have 3 or less cards, you Soul Blast 1, draw a card. You have 2 or less rear guards, you draw another card with a cost of a Soul Blast. When it's placed on the rear guard circle. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of Elemental Hero Bubble Man. In a way, it kind of has like that same property, but that's just me. But anyway, this card is actually pretty decent. I think is because my personal opinion, I don't think Nova Grappler has that many good generic cards in general. Like most of their best stuff is either in Beast Deity or probably even Blouse, or you know sometimes even Eraser cards that are just like strictly for risers. But that's just me. I actually like this card. It works pretty well. So we'll see how this actually works. Next up we have Razor Custom. Now I remember this card was being used a lot back in the day when it first came out, but I honestly don't know how people feel about this card now. Reason being is because like if it's on the Vanguard circle, you can attack your opponent even if it's your first turn. It gets -1 drive, and you have to pay the cost of putting the card from your hand into the soul. Then it has a rear guard circle ability. When your other rear guard in the same column as this unit stands, you may stand this unit as well. So you can basically stand a whole column just by the front card actually standing, or whatever position you have Razor Custom in. That's why I was all like, this card is pretty good. It allows you to get more power whenever you attack with the unit that stands. But I don't know how everybody else feels about this card being played. I honestly feel like that this card will definitely be played at 3 at most. But if nobody really likes it, probably 2. But honestly, I could see this card still being used. Next up is Jet Riser. It has a simple ability. When your other rear guard is placed, it gets 3k to the end of the turn. It is stackable. Not really the best choice, because there are better like grade 1s. But like if all else fails, like this at 2 isn't such a bad idea. I honestly don't know if I really will play this card. But I do like the fact that it does stack as you like place other rear guards onto the field. But seeing that you're not really doing stuff like superior calling, like a card like this will be very perfect in Neo Nectar, because Neo Nectar has the consistency of calling stuff from the deck and calling plant tokens for free and all of this other stuff. So in a deck like Neo Nectar, that works perfectly, but you're not doing that in Nova Grapplers. So This card is literally a 50-50 in my personal opinion. But that's just me. It is a pretty good budget card though, but I'ma just say don't make this like a necessity. Like this is basically an if all else fails card. But if you do, two. No more than two. Next up is Hard Hit Scrapper. I love that name. That name sounds funny as hell. When it stands, if this unit's in the front row, you may have this unit gain plus 5k to the end of the turn. If your damage zone has 5 face down cards, this unit gets power 10k instead of 5k, and you countercharge Soul Charge. Now, I'm going to be real with you. This deck is counter blast heavy and is soul blast heavy. So honestly, having more cards that allows you to soul charge is actually pretty good in my personal opinion. Honestly, do believe that a card like this would definitely help out a lot. And I'm gonna just be real with you. I don't really see this card being played at a full play set, and this card looks like it only comes in clutch when you are near death, which isn't necessarily 100% a bad thing, but there's obviously better options in my personal opinion. Let's see. But outside of that, I'm gonna just be real with you. This card, I would say maybe run at 2 to 3, and there's obviously a cheaper one because this is like the triple rare as you see right here. So it's not necessarily going to be like the worst thing. I think like the regular version of it is like 25 cents. I just decided to play on this one because it was like the first one that popped up. Let me see real quick. Yeah, 25 cents, like barely $1 a piece. So you're not really gonna be spending that much on this card if you decide to get it. Then you have Drill the Duel. Drill the Duel. So Rearguard Circle, when it boosts, calls discard a card from hand until the end of the turn when your opponent will call a card from your hand to Guardian Circle. For the battles of the unit that was boosted by this unit attacked, he or she must call 2 or more units at the same time. Now the thing is, you are discarding a card, so it does kind of go against, hand advantage. But seeing that you do have cards that allows you to gain, to draw cards because you have such a low hand size, is okay. And this is a guard restrict card at the same time, so that definitely helps a lot. My issue is, of course, the discarding. And the other issue is Nova Grapplers is an XL clan, and you want to go wide because it's XL. So you want to abuse like the XL markers as much as possible. My thing is, because of this, you're not really going to have that many units on your normal rearguard circles, and I don't necessarily know how people really feel about this card. But if you do decide to play the card, I would say at like 2 to 3 at most, because again, it only activates when it boosts, and it does force you to discard a card, which will basically mean that you'll probably also have to run more draw triggers because of it. Last but not actually second to last, Played On Mechanic. I remember the original one, but this one is actually still pretty good too. When it comes to premium, I don't know if people use this version or uses the original one, but we'll see. Anyway, when placed on rearguard circle, if you have a total of 4 or less cards in your hand and rear guards, draw a card. And then rearguard circle, when you counter blast, cost retire this unit and counter charge 1, which definitely comes in handy because again, this is a counter blast and soul blast heavy deck. So having as much counter charge as you can while at the same time doing other useful stuff is most definitely like the route you want to go with like a clan with a deck like this. And last but not least, even though I don't think people really should run this card, but this is a decent option to run if you like the cheesy plays, Queen of Heart. Rearguard circle for 1 per turn. When a sentinel is placed in your opponent's guardian circle, you may stand this unit. Honestly, your opponent is not always going to be throwing out Sentinels. However, when it comes to the Vanguard attacks, 9 times out of 10, you'll definitely see a Sentinel come out here and there. But just because they throw out a Sentinel, I don't think they'll necessarily fear this card whatsoever. But restanding something is better than nothing, like when you really think about it. You also gotta keep in mind that this in King of Sword has a they have an errata. So this is the errata for this because like the original one says when it boosts King of Sword, counterblast one and that boost unit gets plus 5k to the end of the turn. But that isn't necessarily the case in this particular thing, so you have to keep that in mind if you do decide to run this card. Then there's also King of Sword, which we're actually going to start getting onto our grade 2s. King of Sword has the ability of when placed on hand, cause Soul Blast 1 and 2 of your units get power 3k to the end of the turn. If you have 5 or more units, it gets power 5k instead of 3k. So it does Soul Blast, which actually a lot of cards in this like this build does. And it has a pretty okay ability, but I don't necessarily know if this is actually pretty worth it. It does get power, it does give 5k to 2 units, but I don't necessarily know if this unit would definitely be worth it. Reason being is because, in my personal opinion, I would want all of my grade 2s to have a way to restand either itself or another rear guard somehow, some way. So having a card like this is kind of sort of okay, but again, this card in Queen of Heart, I don't think it's really worth it. These two cards are kind of sort of the maybes. These are definitely if all else fails or you don't necessarily have the other cards that I mentioned in this particular list. These cards are definitely like okay. Because again, like I said, Nova Grappler's best support isn't in his generic support. It's in Beast Deity and it's in Risers and Blouse and Victor and all that. So, you know, generic support is kind of sort of iffy right now. Next up, we have Cool Hank, aka Rainbow Dash. When this unit attacks, Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. When this unit attack hits, call Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. Then on the rear guard circle, when this unit attacks, calls discard a card from your hand, stand one of your other rear guards. This card is definitely a 3 or 4, 3 or 4, like no ands or buts about it. This card is just way too good not to use. It's very generic, and Cool Hank's been actually Cool Hank has actually been throwing it down like since like the G era. Like even the original G era card was actually pretty good. It's just the only difference is like you have to worry about the unit boosting, because like it only uses effect when you counterblast one and it's getting boosted. That's the only way you can use this effect. Other than that, this card is actually pretty good. Next up is a card that I feel like is very iffy, but it does restand itself. High powered Razor Custom. Again, I don't necessarily know how people feel about this card, and in order to use this card, you have to actually play Battle Razor, which is a starting Vanguard. You have to play Battle Razor as a starting Vanguard, otherwise this card won't work at all. So, when placed, you may call Battle Razor from your soul to a rearguard circle in the same column as its unit. And when its attack hits a Vanguard's, counterblast 1 and put a Battle Razor from your rearguard circle into your soul and stand one of your other rearguards. Now, I'm gonna just be real with you. I don't like the fact that in order to restand a rearguard, you have to not only have Battle Razor onto the field, but you also have to not only have Battle Razor on your field, but you also have to you have to have the attack hit a Vanguard at that. So honestly, it's like it brings up pressure, but the pressure isn't really worth it. Plus, you're also getting rid of a rear guard slot just to have Battle Razor just to be on standby to see if the attack hits or not. So if you do decide to run this card, run it at 2, no more, no less. Maybe even at 1 if you want to. Actually, fuck it, just play it at 1. It's definitely worth it at 1, and it's definitely a very cheesy play to go against your opponent. But that's just me. Next up is the card that will be putting this whole deck on his back, Kick Typhoon. Now, don't worry, this card is getting reprinted in V Clan Collection Volume 6, so you don't have to worry about getting copies now unless you want these SPs, which right now, as you can see, is $13 a piece. On the Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, when placed, if this unit is on the Vanguard Circle or an additional Rearguard Circle, one of your units get power 5k to the end of the turn. And then on a rear guard, when it attacks, if all of your front row rear guards have a rear guard, it calls Counterblast 1 and stand one of your other rear guards. Now, honestly, this card is actually pretty good. In order to use the second ability though, you have to have like a full field of, all of your front row has to have rear guards on it, or all of your rear guard circles, all of your front rear guard circles have to be filled with units, which is pretty simple in a format like this. However, I don't know how this will fare in premium format. And the reason why I say that is if you go against stuff like Kagero or Narukami or Lane Joker, that will easily get rid of your front row rear guards with like ease. Honestly, I don't know how this card will fare, especially seeing that they can get rid of your rear guards like during the battle phase. So honestly, this card is very good. It's still very good in premium format, but like sometimes you're gonna be into that situation where you don't have like a rear guard occupying the front rear guard circle because it got blown up by the Nile Griffin. So there's that. Next up is Stylish Hustler. I like the name for 1, and 2, I do like the second rear guard ability. But the first Vanguard rear guard ability is when your other rear guard is retired by your opponent's card ability, Soul Blast 1. Return one card from among those cards to your hand. Return even when this unit was retired at the same time. The other rear guard ability is when it attacks, this unit gets power 3k until the end of the battle for each card in your damage zone. I definitely would have to say run this card at 3 or 4 because this card definitely comes in clutch, especially towards the end of the game. And just like Swordbrain Gladiator, wrong one. Hard Hit Scrapper, my bad. Just like Hard Hit Scrapper, it definitely comes in clutch when you're near death. So honestly, 5 face down cards, 10k instead of 5k to like when he's in the front row, and it stands by an ability. And then Stylish Hunter gains basically 15 plus, so he'll be a 24k beat stick when he attacks when you're at 5 damage. So that's definitely something to like think of. He definitely gains power pretty quickly, and at the same time, if you have critical triggers and all this other stuff on him, he'll definitely come in clutch. Next up, we have Brutal Jack. Now, Brutal Jack is an interesting card because he gets power 10k during your turn, becoming a 19k beat stick, but he cannot stand during the stand phase, which means that his only like weakness is literally Mega Colony. But outside of that, you're able to rest 2 rear guards and stand this unit, which is actually pretty good in my personal opinion. So like most of if your opponent's at grade 3, most of your cards are just going to restand anyway due to the Asura Kaiser, like War Deity Asura Kaiser's ability. So like resting 2 units isn't super bad when you really think about it. And there's going to be other ways to restand your units anyway. So it's not, like I said, it's not 100% bad. And then even then, you don't really even have to pay the cost for it. You can just wait till you, even though it would be a waste, you could just wait until Asura Kaiser attacks and then restand something. or have somebody like Kick Typhoon restand the card in general. You still have to pay a cost regardless though, so it's not super bad. But having a 19k B stick on both Vanguard and Rearguard Circle during your turn is actually pretty good in my personal opinion. So I would definitely see this at a 2 to 3. For last but not least, for the grade 3s, there's not that many good choices to really choose from. So I have 3. First one is Ultra Beast Deity Illumino Dragon. Ignore the Vanguard skill. You mainly want to use it for the Rearguard skill. And even though I did talk about that on hit abilities is kind of iffy, this is still pretty worth it because when your other unit attack hits, this unit gets power 15k to the end of the turn, which basically means that this card in particular doesn't have to hit. It just has to be either your Vanguard or one of your other rear guards that hits your opponent's Vanguard, and this card becomes a 27k beat stick. It basically gives a reason for your opponent to constantly guard your other attacks because they don't want this attack to really proc off. Otherwise, they're just going to be even down in a bigger hole than they should be when it comes to the defense. And then the second one was a card that came out like in the first set, which is Maximum Riser. Basically, he has the ability of gaining 10k when he attacks a Vanguard while not boosted. So basically, you just put him on a rear guard circle. You're basically going to use him like on an XL marker. Seeing that most people use XL2, he's going to be like a 17k on his own though. But when he attacks a Vanguard, he's going to be 27k. I like cards like this in XL clans because XL clans, they're pretty iffy when it comes to power, and Maximum Razor gives just the right amount of power in order for you to use it. And then there's one more. There's another grade 3 that's coming out in the set called Ultimate Life Form Cosmo Lord. On Vanguard Rearguard Circle, during your turn, if you have no standing units, this unit gains power 3k for each of your rear guards. Then, another ability, you rest 2 rear guards, and this unit gets, at the end of the battle that this unit attack, counterblast 1, stand this unit, it gets minus drive 2 until the end of the turn. But anyway, basically, this card is actually pretty decent because it is basically the last card that you want to attack with before you attack with your Vanguard, which is why I say he's a decent alternative grade 3. But I don't know how necessarily some people really feel about this card. I believe that this card definitely kind of comes in clutch, especially if you have no choice but to play this card. But I can also see why why I wouldn't be surprised if nobody really likes this card either. So, with all that being said, this is it for the V Premium deck. I would definitely like just to quickly go over the overall ratios I would go is maybe like 10 to 12 grade 1s, 12 grade 2s, and then 12 grade wait, hold on. I think I'm off. 12, 24, 34, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. No, actually I am off. So I want to say like maybe 10, 10, 12 or something like that. Or 10, 11, 12. Because let me see. You'll have 17 for your grade 0s. Then you'll have 12, what is it? You'll have 12 grade 3s. So that will be 27, 29. Then 10 more grade 1s. That will be 39. And then it will be 11 for like the remaining. So yeah. 10 grade 1s, 11 grade 3s. 10 grade 1s, 11 grade 2s, and 12 grade 3s, not counting the Hill Guardians. Reason being is because seeing that the Hill Guardians are already grade 3s, you're basically going to have just as many grade 3s into your deck as you have triggers. So you have 16 triggers, you have 16 grade 3s. That's 32 ways to actually hit your opponent. And then at the same time, you also have the grade 2s as well. That will also be another 43. So I mean, no wait, 36. Oh wait, shit, 32. I cannot math today. 32. You have 32 ways to get triggers in grade 3s, and then another 11. That will be for. Oh my god, I cannot math today. But you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. Like, you'll basically have like, yeah, you'll basically have like 32 grade 3s. I mean 32 ways to hit both either grade 3s or triggers. You basically see what I mean by that. So anyway, overall, Asura Kaiser at 4. Kind of ignore that. I was kind of wondering what its effect does, but ignore that. War Deity, Asura Kaiser at 4. This at 4. Asura at 4. This at 3 to 4. Riser Custom at 2 to 3. This at 2. This at what did I say? Like 2 to 3. This at 2 to 3. This at 3 to 4. This if you want to run it like 2. If you want to run this 2. Cool Hank should be at 4. Either Cool Hank or Kick Typhoon should definitely be at 4. After that, I think everything depends on what the other grade 2 you want to run. So if you want to run High Power Razor Custom, this should probably be at 2. Stylish Hustler should be at 3. Brutal Jack should be at 2 to 3. And then depending on which grade 3 you run at that at 4 as well. So that's basically it for the video. My name is Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage Armor Jones Rafa. This has been some gourmet shit.